There's a typo on my grandmother's gravestone. See if you can spot it. It's not her name, that is actually how it was spelled. Keep reading. There it is. That's right. Oh, God. It's perfect, isn't it? One missing letter, whole other meaning. The stonemasons could not have chosen better. They could have chosen to hire a proofreader. I used to be one. It took me 4 seconds to mark this up, and I would have given them mates rates for the job. And I think that would have been money well spent, because this is a written medium built for posterity. My grandmother was 99 when she died, old for a human, nothing to that slab of granite she's now hanging out with. But even our more throwaway forms of writing do last, because writing is a way in which information and ideas are transmitted through time from generation to generation. And the dictionary, in order to catalogue the evolution of how humans communicate, relies on citations of writing, not speech, not body language. So shopping lists, birthday cards, post-it notes. When you're scrawling a dirty joke on the wall of a public toilet, are you thinking, down the line, this could be a very valuable piece of evidence for linguists? But also, are you thinking about how you're participating in a process that humans have been doing for thousands of years, albeit not one that was particularly widespread until relatively recently? In Britain, where I'm from, mass education and thus mass literacy didn't happen until a couple of hundred years ago. And even members of the wealthy classes hadn't been writing for all that long before that. Before the printing presses were introduced in Europe about 1440, most writing was done by scribes because it was difficult. It required specialist skills. Think of the equipment. There's a scribe. Look how happy he is. Think of the equipment that was around at the time. Have any of you tried writing with a quill? Not a quill crowd, Ted? Well, it's like writing with something between a twig and a drinking straw. It's a feather, usually from the wing of a goose. Thomas Jefferson kept a special flock of geese just to supply his quills. Then you cut the pointy end into a nib, and then, if you're lucky, that would last you about a week, because it splits and it snaps all the time, which is why this scribe is depicted with a pen in one hand and a knife in the other. Also because, while the implements they were writing with were challenging, what they were writing on was another level. They were writing on sheets of vellum or parchment, which are stretched and treated pieces of animal skin, calf or a goat, and they were often still stubbly. So in order to keep on writing, the scribes would have to shave the page. And if that page got wet, it would start reconstituting into gelatinous skin. So if that is what I had to contend with whenever I wanted to write something down, really, the least of my worries would be errors. And scribes did make plenty, because it was tiring work, lots of hand cramps, it took ages, they were in freezing cold monasteries, very dimly lit. But even when they got everything right, there was no guarantee that people would correctly read what they had written, owing to a quill not being able to make many different maneuvers. If you look at a page of medieval writing, you see a lot of short vertical lines. These are called minims. Put two minims together, and that's an N, or a U. Put three together, that is an M, W, N, I, N. You see the problem? Put 15 of them together, that's a garden fence. It's actually the word minimum. This is what you were expecting out of this conference, isn't it? Looking at that. So, in order to make letters more distinct from each other, things happened, like the I got its dots. And some words even started to be spelt differently. Think of words like love and honey, which look like they should be pronounced love and honey. They were actually formerly spelt with U, like it sounds like they were, but that shifted into an O, just so it wasn't this unintelligible minims party. And I love how the English language is strewn with these little signs of the tension between the desire to be comprehensible and the limitations of the technology available at the time. Something as small as the dot on an I symbolizes how technology influences form. Technology influences form. 3,000 years ago, Sumerians in Mesopotamia were writing cuneiform, one of the earliest known writing systems, by pressing a reed stylus into soft clay into these different configurations of straight lines and wedges, because those were the shapes you could make by pressing a reed stylus into soft clay. 2,000 years ago in Northern Europe, they were writing runes, all straight lines, because those were easier to carve into wood and stone, the stationery they had. And 1,000 years ago, scribes were writing on cows with geese. And from there, pages get smoother, less stubbly. Pens get more agile. You can make finer lines and fancier shapes. Letters get more distinct because technology influences form until this point in time, where technology is indivisible from the form. If we're writing on computer or tablet or phone, the implement to write is also the physical manifestation of the writing. And we are less involved in and less necessary to the process than ever. When we type, we don't need to form the letters ourselves. We don't even need to type anymore. Software can turn our voices into text, or autocomplete will leap in and supply a word. Handwriting is to electronic writing what cooking a pizza from scratch is to dialing one in. It's never been physically easier to write. Doesn't mean we're better at it. So these days, a grave such as my grandmother's would usually be inscribed by sandblasting the text onto the stone through a rubberized, laser-cut stencil for which the text had been arranged on a computer. And I have to wonder, if the stonemasons had been inscribing it the old-fashioned way by chipping the words into the stone with a chisel, would that have been so slow, so physically demanding, errors so hard to correct, that they would not have accidentally made it insulting? Because we delegate a lot to computers because they are quicker and better than we humans are at a lot of things. But computers don't care that the words friends and fiends elicit very different responses graveside. The granite does not care either. The implements of writing have never cared about meaning. Pens and typewriters are not sentient, I think. Thomas Jefferson's geese had no idea what their plumage was writing. Technology influences form. It does not have the same attachment to meaning as we do. So in the future, I anticipate that writing will be even easier and even quicker and require even less physical and mental input from us. So with all that time and energy we're saving, we can be even more conscientious about what we mean to say. Because we do care, unlike the computers, we do care. And if we slack off on that, it is really very easy to turn friends into fiends. Thank you.